going to do is just give you a quick introduction on the technology and some of the things that we're doing here at eSilicon. This is Mike Gianfagna speaking. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at eSilicon, and we've got a panel of folks who have actually used the portal and are interactively working with us on developing business and closing business with our online quoting technology, and we'll get into that part of the event in just a few minutes. So let's just talk a little bit about what we're doing here. So online quotes are here. We said in the title of the webinar that semiconductors go online and worldwide, and I'll explain what I mean by that as we get into some of the statistics. But we have two portals that we've launched, one about a year ago for doing multi-project wafer quotes online, and we support 6 foundries today: TSMC, UMC, SMIC, Altus, TSI, and Global. And we also have more recently launched a portal that supports GDSII quoting, and that's exclusive with TSMC today. So you can get an online real-time quote for an MPW slot in multiple technologies from multiple foundries, and you can get a full GDSII tape-out quote, which includes all the NRE, pre-production, and qualification services, and the volume pricing for the volume and the time frames that you request, and that's for TSMC today. Most of the folks who look at this say, yeah, this takes somewhere between 1 and 4 weeks to generate a quote like this with telephone tag, meetings, follow-up, research. We do it all literally in minutes online on the internet and deliver an executable, legally binding quote document to your inbox. By the way, a few months ago we did a webinar that showed actually the function of the GDSII portal with a customer for Econos, basically driving that. That's on our website. If you'd like to see that, feel free to log in and you can see that replay. Today, we're not going to demo the technology, but we're going to talk about the impacts of it and what people see in the real world for usage. So, yes, it is global reach. This is a remarkable statistic. In the year that we've been online, we have 315 registrations, probably more like 330 by now, from 43 countries, and you can see the breakout there. And we have generated what's closing in on 1,000 quotes from that. And yes, we have closed business as a result as well. We have new customers as a result of this technology. So one of the things that I find interesting, frankly, is that we will be closing business in places we've never been. This is the effect of the internet, and this is some of the benefits of the global reach that the internet provides. So here's a good example of that. Okay, so let's look a little bit at some other things we do. I want to say that collaboration in the ecosystem is key for us. It's very important that we work with our partners, and we do lots of things with our IP partners, with our foundry partners, with our fabless semiconductor partners. This is just one example of something we're doing with IDT that we announced not too long ago on rapid I/O development. So it's just an example of the kinds of things we're doing with our partners that we believe is actually critical to the business model of eSilicon and to the success of portals like this. So that's a little bit of the background. I want to now get into the part of this discussion that I think you will find most interesting. That's just a little bit of a level set on what we're doing. So we've got 3 panelists with us here today who are going to talk about different aspects. We've got folks from the fabless semiconductor community as well as folks from the IP community. So you're going to hear a little bit of different points of view about how people use this portal and what the benefits are. So a quick introduction. Bill Brennan is the president and CEO of Credo Semiconductor. Bill most recently served as executive VP at Vital Connect, Inc., where he was responsible for business strategy and partner development. Prior to Vital, Bill served as vice president storage business unit at Marvell for 11 years, where he led the organization to revenue growth from $20 million to more than $1.6 billion annually. So if you ever need a job, I think we'd like you to do that here. Thanks, Bill. He also served in senior roles at NEC and TI. Trevor Hyatt is with us as well. He's the senior product marketing manager for interface and connectivity at IDT. Trevor has 18 years of experience in the semi industry that includes strategic product definition, product planning and development, and product marketing. Trevor's a graduate of the University of California, Santa Barbara, where he earned his BS degree in double in computer engineering. And I should also mention that Trevor's been working with us directly on that press release you saw previously. He's responsible for those products. So that's actually a very exciting program that we're working on. And then finally, Mahesh Tirabador. Yep. I had to practice that 5 times before we started, so I think I got it right. If I didn't, I apologize. Executive VP at Analog Bits. I think a lot of people know Mahesh. I struggle with the last name because we just all call you Mahesh.
Yeah, there you go. It's like Mike G.
Right? Yeah, Mike G. No one would dare try my last name.
I like the share the banana too.
So Mahesh is responsible for business partnerships, IP licensing, and joint venture development at Analog Bits. Prior to that, he held executive-level positions at leading IP and library companies. He's earned his MS in EE from Arizona State and a business degree from the University of California at Berkeley. So that's our panelists. And again, we are approaching this problem from multiple different perspectives with this group. So I'm going to kick things off and just pose a question. And again, for the folks on the phone, please feel free to type in questions in your chat window, and we'll address those as well. Start at the very highest level. What is your view of online quoting technology? Does it help your business? How does it help? Let's just start there. So whoever wants to grab that first. Bill, why don't you start?
Sure. I guess a little bit of background. I've been in the semiconductor business for many years, back all the way when the internet probably didn't exist, and so my experience with getting any kind of quotes or getting feedback was always a multiple step approach that went from the business organization to the operations organization. They would contact suppliers, salespeople. The salespeople would then contact the operations group with their suppliers, and then weeks later we would get feedback, the feedback that we were looking for to run our business. And even more recently, that was the case, even beyond 2010. And so I recently joined Credo, and Credo is a fabless chip company as well as an IP company. And I joined in December of last year, and one of the first things that I was exposed to was the eSilicon tool. And because I'm looking at the next 12 months when I just joined the company, and we were planning on taping out in 65 nanometer, 40 nanometer, 28 nanometer, and 16. Something that we've done. We've actually done that in the last 12 months. And so getting my hands around what that was going to mean from a cost perspective and from a just an overall business perspective, it was interesting. Somebody recommended that I try the eSilicon tool, and what I found was I didn't have to convince somebody that Credo was real. I didn't have to convince somebody that what the opportunity looked like. It was really a massive workflow reduction for me to just get online and start playing with the tool. And so literally my experience was, it was like a huge aha moment for me in a sense that I had this great powerful tool at my fingertips. And literally they talked about 5 minutes to get a quote. Try it, it's actually less than a minute to get a quote. And what you're getting is accurate because you're dialing in the exact recipe that you're looking for. And it's been a really great tool. It's the same kind of feeling the first time I booked an airline ticket online. I didn't have to talk to anybody. I just did it myself. So
you can do it any time of day or night that you like. We've used that analogy multiple times. Do it on my terms, not on your terms.
So long answer to your question, yeah, it's had a big impact for us. We're not a big organization, and especially putting the power at our fingertips, and anybody in the organization can use it. It's been great. So a great experience.
Trevor, from your point of view, any other comments? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. So I'm Trevor Hyatt from IDT, product manager, and my focus is on Rapid I/O. So we do have an engagement currently with eSilicon, which is going very, very well. To back up a little bit, I've been a product manager for a long, long time now, and doing the definition and development. I've worked internally within IDT, and to back up and explain that history, IDT at one time had many fabs, and just in the last few years we finally completed going completely fabless. So, the experience, even when IDT owned the full development effort with the fabs, with the foundry support, etc., honestly, it still took a long time. I mean, much as Bill mentioned, right? We had all the internal logistics, working with the different organizations, et cetera, and sharpening the pencil on a daily basis to try to finally get the numbers. And it would take, even that process, right, was typically weeks, easily. And then oftentimes it's a recursive thing where something changes, something has to move, and then they have to go back and spend another week or what have you. So, using the tool for sure is actually it's really eye-opening to see that you can actually get a legally binding quote in just a matter of minutes. I've used it myself. The relationship that we've had with Rapid.io, with eSilicon, we have a program going. Initially, we started with eSilicon and just working in more of the traditional manual fashion. eSilicon was very responsive, but now even with this quote, both on this program and future programs, we expect to be able to accelerate the ability to get this thing on our new programs on the tracks just that much quicker.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. By the way, just a little side note there. You mentioned that IDT got out of the fab business over the past few years. There's a funny story there. You might recall over on Sealy, you guys had a building with a fab. I worked at Cadence Design Systems when we bought that building from you.
Oh, is that
right? My office was there, so the joke was that we were a waferless fab now. Within that fab building.
That's great.
So I remember that specifically. I actually watched that happen.
That's great.
So Max, from your point of view, we've got a little bit of both here, but you're specifically focused in the IT area. So tell us a little bit about your views.
Absolutely. If you look at the market for semiconductor design, it's gone worldwide, and I think, Mike, you showed a slide on that.
Yeah.
We don't touch and talk to many customers. We don't even visit them many times, and there are quotes which people want to have an answer overnight, or they want to have information overnight. The traditional way is we try to be responsive and reply to emails at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning, whenever we can. But I think this whole online coding system is going to revolutionize the whole industry, including the ecosystem partners working together. In the past, many of our customers come and say, "Hey, how much do you think these things cost?" And now we can point them to an eSilicon tool, and they can get real information as opposed to somebody giving a speculative verbal quote. So I think this sort of industry-wide phenomena of having something streamlined online is great for our customers, our joint customers. I do see that in future this can be expanded into many facets, including IP availability and credibility of what IPs are, and showing more information about the IP as well.
Yeah.
But in the short term, I think it's a huge win for clients, and we are happy to facilitate this whole process by asking them to go check your sites. I think this is a huge win.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. So this next question is sort of related to this, but I want to get into something a little bit more specific. And what I want to ask about is, okay, that we've talked about some of the business impact, and we talked about present and actually, in your point, future. And I'll comment on that a little bit later on the IP content of our quoting portal. Clearly, that's something on our roadmap, so I'll mention that. But what I want to ask now is specific experiences, either company or more interestingly, personal experiences that you've had with the portal, or anecdotes you want to share. I mean, we touched on some of those. Is there anything else that anybody has that they'd want to share in terms of specific things you've done with it or reactions? And by the way, one of the things that I'll feather into this question also is, what should it do that it doesn't do? Here's your chance to ask for new things or give me quality feedback on the portal. So what's been the experience, and what did it do? What did you wish it do that it didn't do?
I'll be glad to start off. Yeah. This is Trevor again. Yeah, I've definitely used both the quoting portals, MPW and GDSII. I found them.
I think you're a power user. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's a number of quotes in there generated, so I'm sure I'll be getting calls. No, I found it. I think one of the biggest challenges, and again, it's this recursive notion. It's this what if scenario kind of notion. There are so many parameters, that are part and a function of this, legitimate parameters, things that you have to know in order to get a legitimate quote, something accurate, right? And I think what's really good about the tool is it's captured all that right up front, so you don't have to remember, oh, that's right, I do need a deep in-well implant, or, oh, that's right, flip chip BGA does come in a stack up of 323. As you're working your way through the tool, there are dependencies built into that interface. So as you select, for example, that flip chip BGA, then it does prompt you that you'll need to identify what the stack up is, for example, in GDSII. And those are the kinds of things that, if you're just doing this manually, you might forget, leave out, what have you.
Error, yes.
Absolutely, error fraught. And this really, really shows that it's a mature tool as you're working through it. And again, bringing those many parameters down to something that's just push button simple, and even getting the quote push button simple is just really revolutionary.
Okay, that's very helpful.
As far as what I would see improvements to the tool, one of the things I'd like to see is, I was noticing from the message board, there's a question about adding foundries, I think especially to the GDSII.
Yeah.
That would be very interesting, although IDT does a lot of work in TSMC, and we're glad to see that, right? We'd like to see others.
Yeah, we find a lot of people do.
Yeah, right. Makes sense, right. So then the IP, I know as we're working with eSilicon's got a vast breadth of IP that's available, and I don't recall as I was working through the tool, those were a part of the quoting process there. I think it was left to the user to consider what the costs are for the IP itself.
Sure.
So I know that would be something that would just be fantastic, and especially looking over at the panel here, folks that can provide IP, I would think that would be something of strong interest to them to be able to see that quoted right into the tool.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. In fact, let me pause here and just respond to that. Because, yeah, we did get a question on the chat window. When do you plan to include other foundries such as Global in the GDSII portal, and when? So, very good point. So let me respond to that first, and then I'll talk to IP. On the quoting side, we've launched the portal exclusively with TSMC. We did that. We announced it in May of last year, and we demoed it the first time at the Design Automation Conference in June. It felt like a good venue for this kind of automation, a little bit of a different kind of automation than people talk about at DAC, so that was kind of fun. The view was that this is a new-to-the-world thing, and we were, to be frank, learning a lot here, and we really wanted to wring this out and get the process correct, and we made a decision to do it with the market leader, to be blunt. So a lot of our business is TSMC-based. I think a lot of people would say the same thing. Yeah. So we work with TSMC to kind of iron out the kinks and to get focused. That said, eSilicon's business model and our strategy is to be neutral and to be independent. That's a very important part of our overall strategy. We don't force you to use a particular foundry because they own us, or a particular IP library because we have to sell it. We're very open that way. So we will be adding more portals. The time frame is probably, I would say, middle of next year. We'll be adding additional portals, and we will be, the usual suspects are all in line, Global, obviously, and several others that if you guess the top 6, you probably guess right. I mean, we all are. So yes, that's absolutely something that's in the plan. On the IP side, yeah, these portals, if you think about it, GDSII portal assumes the design is done and you need to tape out and do pre-production, production. MPW, you have something you want to test. Mm-hmm. So both of those scenarios assume that you pick your IP and you built the design. Yeah. By the way, that said, in the quotes that we generate, we have language in there that says, look, if you need optional services like help with IP procurement, we're happy to do that. I will tell you, in a full third of the cases, that happens. Mm-hmm. People say, yeah, I'm almost done, but I really need your help with this IP or that. Can you acquire? And we do that. Mm-hmm. Putting that online and making that part of the process is coming in one of the next portals we're actively working on now, which is a netlist engagement portal. Okay. If you think about it, once you go from a GDSII engagement to a netlist engagement, now you're building the netlist, and you may want us to do the place and route. You may just give us place gates, and we'll do the completion, we'll do the test. IP is a critical parameter there, so we will be adding IP choices and IP procurement to the portal. I will tell you that every one of these is a substantial increase in complexity. The GDSII portal was a good 2 orders of magnitude more complicated than MPW, mm-hmm. and the netlist one's a good 2 to 3 orders of magnitude more complicated than GDSII. We're working on that now. I expect that we'll be fielding that early next year, and it will address that problem in a more automated way with an online portal. The other thing I'll just mention quickly, and then we'll get to the rest of the team on this, is that we actually pre-announced this at DAC as well. We have an IP portal that's focused on the IP we developed, initially called IP Marketplace. eSilicon develops custom and compilable memories. That'll be going online literally in the next few weeks. So in the month of November, we'll be announcing that so that you can browse our IP, and that's kind of a standalone thing. That's not part of any quoting portal, but if you want to look at some of the eSilicon memories, you'll be able to do that. Do we plan that to make it easier to browse broader IP? Absolutely. Again, that's our business model. So it's coming.
Perfect.
But it's going to take a little time. That's a complicated problem to solve, actually.
For sure.
Anyhow, that's just a little background. And thank you for the question from the audience. So any other comments about usage scenarios or What do you wish it do that it didn't do?
Sure, I can give you some feedback. I mean, first on specifics, I think, the first shuttle that we booked through eSilicon was a 40 nanometer shuttle last January when we were taping out our 28 gig and our 56 gig SerDes. And we were, pretty much under the gun. We knew that there was a shuttle in January, and we found ourselves, kind of in late December. And so the quoting tool kind of kicked off the process, and we were able to really streamline things and, make that shuttle with no issue, and working with the team here at eSilicon. So not just from a quoting standpoint, but we've had really good experience with actually booking and executing an MPW. A couple areas of feedback, and I'll give you this feedback. First saying what you've done so far is great.
Thank you.
But when you're using the tool, it would be great if you could get better visibility into the line items. And so if you want to add corner wafers, that's one of the abilities you've got in the tool. But you have to go through an iterative process to figure out and deductively what is the price of that wafer. Is it slow, or fast? So it might be a $25,000 wafer, but you're not able to see that up front on the quote that you get. Scheduling is a big thing, and so you've got a nice ability to show the shuttle schedules for the different foundries.
Right.
And you're pretty much using TSMC, and it's great to see when the shuttle is going to be taking off. But on your tool, it doesn't go out very far in time.
Okay.
So if you look today, it's just 2014. You don't have any 2015 data loaded. So that becomes a great tool for planning. We've got different shuttles that we're planning for 2015, and I've got to go elsewhere to figure out what those specific schedules are.
Which defeats the purpose of the tool. We don't want you to have to go anywhere else. So
that's another thing. Another natural thing that you should build into the tool is the wafer out dates. So the launch is one thing, but understanding specifically when you're going to get your wafers back is kind of the next natural step in the process that you go through.
It's another part of the planning that you really need for your
right,
business, yeah.
Right, exactly. And then the kind of the fourth area of feedback that I would give you is that for people working with advanced processes, it would be natural that if you're used to this kind of tool that you'd be able to include, say, 16 FinFET Plus, and those shuttles aren't running as frequently. It shouldn't be difficult to add that to the tool. It would be really helpful. Right now we're doing that manually. We just taped out at the end of October for our first 16 FinFET Plus shuttle, and it was a very manual process.
Okay.
From the standpoint of quoting and managing it.
Okay. No, thank you. Those are things we've heard before. We're working on all of them.
Okay.
I'm not going to get into the details here. I want to give us enough time to talk about the questions. But on the 16 nanometer, I will say that since we're also an IP provider as well as an ASIC provider, we've had some early access to the scene as an IP provider, because we all do, right? So we're getting that honed, and it's close to ready. So that's the good news. We will excellent to put that up, because we hear that a lot, by the way. 16's getting, everyone says 28 nanometer is going to be around forever. No one's going to 16. I'm not feeling that. I'm seeing an awful lot of interest in 16, so I'm not sure what exactly is going to happen here, but there's a lot of.
Sure, there's great benefit for those that can afford it.
Yeah, it's well put. Yeah, if you need the performance and you can afford it, you can do some good things. You really can. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, since I'm not a power user, but I can see how this usage can be beneficial for IP companies, aggregators like eSilicon. The main thing is, as a company providing IP, we pretty much take the spec on the process from the customer, from whether it be the process technology, the metallization stack, what is thick layer metal, what is bump layer, what is the IO oxide, whether they want 3.3 volt capable or tolerant, or all this sort of information. I think you've given a very broad overview, but if we can actually get a little more specific. Now, what it helps us, Mike, is when we are delivering IP, we can refer your GDSII portal as another checklist.
Right.
Because most of us, in a given contract, we write an SOW, and within the SOW, we specify the metallization, the oxide. But sometimes the customer has not seen the contract because it goes to a legal department. but having the SOW somehow captured within this portal would be very valuable, will help all parties communicate. Perhaps it sits in your netlist tool.
This is keeping the metallization stack consistent with the IP you've chosen.
Right.
Sounds like a simple problem. It is.
But it's a complex problem and bites us again. And because people suddenly...
A lot of horror stories about that.
Right. Yeah. People suddenly say, oops, I changed my metallization. Oh, I forgot to inform my IP supplier. Or I changed the oxide. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you. We're taping it on a different oxide.
Yeah.
So information like this, where it's transparent and all, especially in our business, there's a huge number of parties collaborating together, and it's not like somebody's trying to intentionally do this mistake, but things like this which get slipped in and somehow alerted to people would be great. So I can almost see this as a portal of choice for people to sort of have a communication vehicle, and maybe it's a new business model for you guys that you're facilitating communication with your partners, with your suppliers, and I can see this extremely valuable for companies like us working with you and your customers.
Okay, fair point. Okay, thank you. That's good feedback. So I want to watch the time. We said we were going to do about a half hour on the webinar. We're closing in on that time. So I'm just going to ask one more question. And I'll close with a question from the studio audience here. Thank you for that. We'll do that very last. But I'm going to back up a little bit and ask you to put on your predict the future hat, your pontification hat, whatever you want to call it. Based on everything you've seen here of what we've done with the online portals for quoting, do you see this as a trend? What else should be on the internet, and how does this impact our business? I've said in blogs, tongue-in-cheek, that the very industry that made the internet possible doesn't use it that much. It's business, the semiconductor industry. We're trying to change that. What else should be done here? What's the future hold here? Is this really going to change the game on the way ICs or any kind of chip, is SoC or otherwise, is both designed and procured? What do you see in the future? Just kind of a brainstorm.
Yeah, I'll start off. Trevor again here. I see this as honestly, and it sounds like a big plug, but it sounds like it really seems the way of the future. As we were working with eSilicon and looking at this, I've been at IDT 18 years. I've seen the evolution going fabless, et cetera. And what initially was a foundry model, which was just doing the fab work outside of house, we see this is a real evolution where what eSilicon is doing with the quoting and then some of the capabilities, the IP, et cetera, is suddenly becoming really a part of that foundry model, if you will. So it leaves companies like IDT, mid-sized companies, an opportunity to focus on the innovation, doing what they do in the development of those ASICs, for example, and then leaving the eSilicon to handle the economies of scale on the back end development processes, and obviously the quoting capability and the evolution of that, I'm sure, will help make accurate those pieces of the puzzle, right, and make it that much easier to select, right?
Yeah, ease and accuracy. Yeah, something I should mention. Internally we looked at this technology. We use it too, by the way, to automate the quoting process that we do manually outside of the portals. That's how this all started. We started using it internally, and then we made it available to our customers. We measure the productivity improvement in terms of man years, person years of effort that we avoid, literally, as a result of using this stuff. So the efficiency's there. The opportunity for error is dramatically reduced. We all have horror stories about the wrong metal stack for a piece of IP that doesn't work that way. So you can't do that stuff with an online portal that won't allow you to, right?
Right.
Something, Bill?
Yeah, I think it's clear that this is a trend that's going to continue. I think you can look at any kind of process and the types of improvements that you see with this small first step that we're getting introduced to today. I think there's a huge opportunity for speed improvement, accuracy improvement, just streamlining the entire process and taking a real workload off the resources that you've got and letting those resources really attack higher value types of problems that you're having or opportunities that you've got. So I think this is really a first step, and I think that the future will see every step in the process that we all go through to build a semiconductor. There will be some tool like this that's incorporated long term.
Thank you. Gosh, you get the
Well, I concur with all the people here as well. The trend is unstoppable. If I just look at Analog Bits website, and they have a traffic monitoring tool, we see who hits our website and what happens and which pages get hit. Clearly, people are searching more on the internet for making decisions. A tool like this clearly creates a nice level playing field for all IP companies and helps eSilicon bring in best of class. And that's a pretty important thing because you bring enormous value to your client and as well as to me as a partner. So having somehow exposing the IP out without burying it, I think we already touched on that topic, and giving some specific reference flows, showing examples to customers. Here is how it was done in the past without obviously disclosing any confidential information. It improves credibility, and it just makes people gravitate more to this site as a go-to place for future choices. So the trend is an unstoppable thing, and even we try to spruce up our website, not quite as elegant as yours, Mike, but clearly these are directions, pointers that you're going in the right way.
Thank you. We spent a lot of effort on that. It's wonderful to hear.
I can see that, yeah.
Well, I want to thank our panelists for joining us today. I'm going to just close with one question. Someone asked, hey, I need a UMC MPW shuttle quote. Can you guys help? The answer is absolutely. UMC is one of the foundries we support on our MPW portal. Feel free, just get on our website. It's very easy. If you don't have an account, you can press the sign up button and just enter a few fields. You'll get user ID and password very quickly sent to you. You can then log into the portal and literally, we say 5 minutes, but we have eyewitnesses here that say it's more like a minute or two, which is really the fact for MPW. You can have several minutes later a quote for what you need, and then we'll work with you to make that happen.